And I'm here with Kyle Erickson, and we're going to be talking about Kick Assonance, an upcoming event. Uh, Kyle Erickson is the author of OkieintheCity.com, and we're glad to have him here. So, Kyle, if you could just start off by telling us what is Kick Assonance and how did it begin?
Kick Assonance is a poetry reading series slash journal that you and I put together. Actually, it started off with me throwing one poetry reading in Brooklyn. That's 2 years ago now, and then we developed it into the journal and got other poets and friends involved, and I would like to continue it. Currently just in handmade journals, and probably will be because at Kitsch Faster gets people coming to the readings, and I don't have a published book to sell. Yeah, basically it's start off with me and you, and then it grew up into a bigger group of friends doing poetry readings, and ideally we would have even more people perform at the readings / be published, as well as fiction and maybe even nonfiction writers. So, in a nutshell, a reading series and a journal.
So, tell us a little bit about the name. Where did the name Kick Assonance come from?
Well, it came from something basically like silliness, and maybe some kitsch value. When I was thinking about something gathering attention in the multitude of events and things that happen in New York City. And what's cool is although we don't do slam poetry, even though we have some poets that read a little bit more animated, it would be cool. My thought was it would be cool if it was a little bit hokey, and then maybe you could get some of the slam crowd, because it is spoken poetry. We're not just putting out a journal, even though it's literary poetry. And then basically just there's so many different events and crazy names and different things like that in the city. It's a way of not taking ourselves too seriously, even though we tend to at times. So that's where it came from. That's where the idea behind it came from.
Now, you've had several different readings at various venues. Could you talk a little bit about the venues where Kick Assonance has been held, their differences, what you liked about them, what kind of things you thought were different? Just talk about the venues where Kick Assonance has been held.
Do you want me to mention Be More Poetic too, or no, or?
No, you can just keep it to Kick Assonance.
Okay. So Kick Assonance is mainly a Brooklyn and Manhattan event. So the three venues that we've done that so far, we've done it twice at the Sackett, which is a cool bar in Brooklyn that is like a good bar for high-minded low-life. It actually started out with it actually started out when they first opened the bar. I had a literary journal, but it was started by the owner, and he and his wife were just crazy busy keeping their own bar afloat, so they kind of, it comes and goes. But the journal, that is, and they just had a newborn baby, and you know what that's like, so their time is pretty much occupied. But it's a great place in Brooklyn for good ambiance, very small, but even though it's small, it's an open venue, and so a lot of people can sit closely together if a lot of people show up. And it's a nice homey place, nice homey atmosphere, and they do live events, comedy events sometimes there. They do trivia, and so it's also a place that's kind of like the journal, Kick Assonance, is not too serious and not too pretentious, and also it's fun place. So that was the first place I wanted to do it, especially because inexpensive venues in Manhattan are diminishing. I knew that they would be more likely to take these no-namers and have an event like that. And so that was the first year. We only did that one reading. The second year, We did 3 different venues, Kick Assonance again, and then we did KGB Bar, which is a historical literary venue in New York City. New York Magazine calls it the #1 literary venue in the city. And it's just a very intimate bar, and that one's a little bit more, I don't want to say it has its nose up in the air, because they have a lot of fun events there, and even my wife, who is a comedian, she has her show there. But she is the first comedian-ish performance, because it's just storytelling and it's not straight stand-up or anything. And so it's more intimate. People sit there and they listen and they don't shuck it up, cut it up as much. They just kind of sit there and listen. And when we first did the reading there, I was a little bit startled by how much they were quiet and paid attention, which was a good thing. I just Sack is just a little bit rowdier and a little bit more fun. And then lastly, we did the Nuyorican, which is the slam poetry scene, especially in the early 90s, put that venue on the map, and it pretty much does almost exclusively uses that and music exclusively. They don't do comedy, they don't do time, storytelling scene now a little bit, but like slam poetry and music. So those are the 3 venues, and Nuyorican was a fun venue because it was a slam poetry venue. We got a more diverse audience, albeit small. But also at that one, we kind of spread out our wings a little bit and invited musicians to perform and an avant-garde audience. An avant-garde performers to perform there as well. And that worked well. It was a laid-back environment, and the audience/listeners were engaged, and that's always the best. And we've been fortunate to have that at every venue, and nobody leaving early and nobody going to sleep.
So how do you think things have changed as this has gone into its 3rd year, in terms of performers, the way it was done, the way the feel of the event? We know the upcoming one is going to be at the KGB Bar again. So how do you think the whole event has evolved as time has gone on?
I can, in a couple ways. I think the main way that it's involved is basically my approach to it. The first time we did it, it was me and you, and that's it, and all of my friends from work, basically. And there was a lot of friends there. There was like 25, 30 people there. So that was wonderful. The second time we did it, my wife hosted every event in New York City, Leslie Gushko. She hosted all the events, and she also helped with PR. So what worked out well there was she actually got our name into some magazines and online, and we actually had people show up at least the KGB and Puerto Rican venue, that people that I had no idea that were going to come, people I didn't know. So that was nice to actually have people that you didn't invite personally show up. And my attitude toward it changed, because the first time I was really just kind of petrified in my first reading in New York, and I kind of had a disillusioned view of the literary scene in New York, basically saying all that to say that because I took my reading and writing seriously, quote unquote seriously, maybe even a little bit somberly, that I didn't think of the entertainment value of it, which may sound silly when you're reading in public, but that's the way it was, and that's the way I thought, and and so kind of loosened up a little bit myself and invited people that are a little bit different in, as far as performance, and I've made it more fun, all the while still reading some literary poetry and publishing literary poetry.
What do you think the role?
I answer your question there?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think the role of handmade books has played in the life of Kick Assonance?
Two things. One, it helps with press, especially when you don't have published poets that are recognizable. And, as you know, there's not very many published poets that are recognizable unless you're a poet. So if you offer a handmade book, some people might, especially if you offer them a decent price, some people might come out and actually listen to some poetry and buy an inexpensive book to take home with them. Actually, in 2000, did we do the recession special in 2000 and last year or the year before? You know?
I don't remember. I know last year we did the there was a drink, a Kick Assonance drink at the Sackett.
Right.
But I'm not sure if there was a recession special for the actual handmade books.
So Leslie in her PR skills, she actually mentioned a recession special, handmade books for. It might have been the first year because I think we only sold those hardbacks for like $5. And that got people interested too, and we kind of joked on the recession at the time. But also what was cool was coworkers, especially because I don't really talk to people that aren't coworkers or friends. They would talk to me later saying, "Hey man, I've been reading the poetry," or one friend recently said, "I was thinking about your poem this morning." He actually forwarded it to me, and I was like, "Okay, that's really cool and really bizarre." And I don't think that would happen if it was just a reading experience and have something in their hands to take home with. Granted, it's mainly friends or coworkers, but still, that was something that was a plus. Also, I have one coworker who was a copywriter, but she didn't do any creative, quote-unquote, creative writing for a while. And after the poetry reading, and she said, hey, she bought a book, and she was like, hey, I've been writing poetry again and stuff like that. And so that's fantastic, and I think, again, it helps to have the books there, even if they're inexpensive, or especially because they're inexpensive, because people can take them home and maybe take at least a second glance, even if it's just that night, and look at what they heard. And yeah, so that's the two main things.
What are you most looking forward to in this upcoming event on the July 26th at the KGB bar?
To be honest, number one, I've been to the bar a lot because my wife's show is there, and so I know I'm going to be more comfortable there to begin with. And so I'm looking forward to reading at a comfortable environment, although it's got a lot of law to this great literary venue, which it is. I'm more comfortable in the venue because I go there once a month. So that's number one. Number two is a lot of people have, and this is all, I guess, personal stuff, but number two is a lot of people have been saying, hey, we're going to do this again. Hey, you're thinking about doing Kick Assonance again? And I was like, maybe. And because last year I did a lot in a row, and it was kind of tough. But all those people saying, hey, when are you going to do this again? And it made me excited to do it, one, in this good venue, two, in a venue that I'm comfortable with, and then three, in a Manhattan venue where more people are likely to come from all boroughs because it's easier simply to come to Manhattan than it is to Brooklyn or Queens or any other borough for that matter.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's a lot of exciting things that are happening and continuing to happen with Kick Assonance. If you could sum up in one sentence why someone should come to Kick Assonance, what would you say?
I would say number one, it's fun, because for better or worse, people don't think about poetry when they think about fun. But also, they're likely, this is not one sentence, obviously, but in one word, come because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And with, again, I'm having a hard time putting it in a sentence, but people that do come, a lot of times they're like, they've never been to a poetry reading, or they haven't read poetry in years since they were in school or whatever. And then when they come to a Kick Assonance event, they have a good time and they're inspired. If we're lucky, they're moved, and they, I've had feedback where they have been so far. And And they have cheap drinks there too. No, they don't actually. but but it's a fun event with poetry, and it's good stuff.
Maybe they'll give a recession special to some poor poets.
Yeah, maybe, or maybe we can just put it all on our tab, and they'll have mercy on us for a huge tab, and they'll give Wesley and I a break.
Well, thanks so much, Kyle, for talking with us. Once again, this was Kyle Erickson. Please check out his blog at okieinthecity.com, where he writes about living, writing, and surviving in New York City. Thanks again.